Death planning, the gift your family deserves. None of us can escape death, yet most avoid planning for it until it's too late. Every unprepared passing leaves a wake of chaos, confusion, and conflict for those left behind. When the inevitable happens, will your loved ones know your wishes, or will they be forced to make painful decisions while grieving? End of life planning isn't about acknowledging defeat. It's the ultimate act of love and responsibility. Whether you're 25 or 85, this conversation might be the most important one you never knew you needed. Today's guest, Minnelle Williams, transformed her 20 plus years as a funeral director into a mission helping families prepare for the inevitable. After witnessing countless unprepared families torn apart during probate, she developed a simple framework anyone can use to ensure their legacy. Her personal experiences with both easy and hard deaths in her own family fuel her passion for proper planning. Through her business, Ending Well with Minnelle, she pairs practical estate planning with the powerful act of preserving your personal story for future generations. As she puts it, in order to end well, you must live well. So grab a pen, take notes, and prepare for a conversation that might just change how your family remembers you.
Welcome to Impctrs Out Loud. I'm your host, Tracy B. Allen. Impctrs Out Loud is where social impact meets strategy, spotlighting trailblazing entrepreneurs, their challenges, and the revolutionary innovations driving real change. Each week, we dive into powerful stories, strategies, and insight to inspire and equip those passionate about making an impact through business. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Impctrs Out Loud. And today, I'm really happy about our guests today because what we're going to be talking about, I am truly passionate about. I really think that everybody needs to hear this conversation. Lock in, get your pen, get paper, and start writing some notes. And let's have an honest conversation about what is going to happen to all of us. None of us can escape it, at least none of us that I know about. So let's have a true conversation about it. So today we have with us Minnelle Williams, and she's going to be talking about her experience as a funeral director and educating us about end of life, right? End of life happens. So Minnelle, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about your cocktail.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
My name is Minnelle Williams. I run Ending Well with Minnelle, and that's okay, all the time. And the whole premise of who I am and what I do is teaching and making these conversations about legacy, estate, and storytelling a little easier. I think it's important that we talk about it, have the hard conversations, and actually plan ahead so that we're not leaving everybody in chaos. And then on the other side, matching it with story. Because I know for myself and with many people, when someone passes, the first thing we do is we think about, hey, who they were, those important moments, all of that. And the importance of telling our story cannot be understated. And many times people think my story is not important. It's my life, whatever, nobody cares. But it is so important. Your story impacts the next generation. So it's key that we take that time to share them between us. My cause tale is this. It's actually in two parts. I started out years ago wanting to be a funeral director, actually a pathologist, to do the autopsies. Yeah, to find out why someone died. I wanted to know all the deets, as they would say. And then I got into school and started studying it. And do you know Criminal Minds? You've seen the show?
Yes, of course. Love it.
I was learning it in real life with real people's stories. And I realized, this is not for me. I will never leave my driveway. I can't, I know better now because those shows were just starting when I was in school. I can't even watch those shows. I can't because I can't sleep at night, all of that. I'm not one who has capacity for that. No. So I don't know what I was thinking, saying I wanted to do that job. Anyway, So the second part then is that I wasn't able to get into that field, but when I was in school, I did a co-op at a funeral home because that's the closest I could get to doing pathology. I went back to the funeral home and said, I like this. What do I need to do to become a funeral director? And that's when my career started, like when I was 18. So many, many years ago, I started in this industry. Oh yeah, but even before that, I laugh about it because when I was a kid in high school, even younger, I was going to Antigua. That's where my family's from. And I would go and visit.
My grandmother's from there.
Really? Look at this small world.
My grandmother, my dad.
Yeah?
Yeah.
To get to, okay. Yeah. Okay. It's always nearby. So I would go to Strathby's, the funeral home there, and I would just spend time with them, operating how they did every day, folding programs or whatever it was. And that was as a child. So I'm not surprised that I'm where I am now, working in the career that I've done. And for us, when you get a license to become a funeral director, you do everything. So from the removals, the embalmings, the arrangements, the services, going to the cemetery, all of that, or crematorium. I'm also a crematorium operator. Like I learned.
I didn't realize that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I thought the funeral director was just the person who did the arrangements with the family to, how the procession of the funeral would go. I didn't realize they were in the back doing things.
That, yes. And so I'm in Ontario, Canada. And for us, our license, they have different tiers. Back when I started, there was only one license and you did it all. Now there's tiers. So you might have a director who's just going to arrange. You might have a director who's going to embalm. Back when I started, you did it all. Yeah. So man, I think it's good though, because I got to do something for people, a final gift I could give someone that they couldn't give themselves. And I think that was the most beautiful thing I could do in the industry, So I really love that. Anyway, I did that for years. And then I would see, families coming in. We talked about this a little bit. Families come in, they come in for arrangements. Sometimes it's easy, meaning organized, and sometimes it's. And so I said, okay, let me get into pre-arranging because then I can prevent some of this. I can start helping people beforehand. So I started doing that. And then as I was in pre-arranging, I did that for about 10 years. And then I kind of got into death doulaing. Death doulaing, if we don't know, it's kind of new.
Yeah.
It's perfect. Where we're helping someone navigate, if they have the opportunity, what they want their end of life to look like. So again, I'm going a little bit further ahead. And then I got into estate planning. And I
definitely need to introduce you to my friend who's a cancer doula.
Oh,
yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I think so. I think that'd be very good. Yeah. Yeah. So all of this is just about having conversations, doing the difficult conversations, knowing what to do. Because what happens is a lot of people just don't know what they need. My cause changed when my dad got sick. And I went from being the professional to being the child. Right? Oh, let me tell you.
Yeah.
The job is all encompassing. And listen, I do this. I know this. I'm a professional. Other people come to me for advice. In my house, I am nobody. I'm the daughter who doesn't know anything, right? So here I am with the briefcase of all of the stuff saying, we could have done better. It didn't need to be this overwhelming and this exhausting. And for us, it happened in the midst of the pandemic. So it was heightened how much struggle we had to go through. So, and my dad had a property in Antigua. It was a whole lot. So that's where I changed from just being, okay, let me work with people and kind of do my job, to it becoming a real cause that I stand on, that I believe in, that I am championing.
I know.
Yes, that's what I do. I teach, I do workshops. I pair them though. I pair the teaching of estate planning with the importance of storytelling. Let's do them both together. And sometimes I'll bring you in on the story because that's a lot easier. And then we'll work our way to the legacy, the estate planning. And however it works for you, both are important. Let's talk about it. So all of that is my very drawn out version of my cocktail.
Got you. So were you able to get your dad set up before his passing?
My dad's still alive.
Oh,
He
he's
is
still alive.
suffering.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
he's
sorry.
suffering from dementia. That's okay. He's suffering
Okay.
from dementia.
Oh,
So it
okay.
has been a long process. Has it been all organized? Definitely not.
Right,
Definitely
because
not.
he has dementia, and
Yeah,
now that puts a different factor on everything.
a
Yeah.
lot of things. We did
Yeah.
manage to get, I can move very quickly. So we did manage to get a lot of things done. And I
Mhm.
find this, I've done a lot of research into why men specifically have
Mhm.
a harder time moving forward with this estate planning. And the
Okay.
two things that I've learned is one,
Mhm.
they don't want to talk about, it's kind of like a young man getting married. Until I feel like I have everything ready, I don't want to take that step. In their same thought, when it comes to estate planning, they're like, until I feel like I have everything exactly how I want it, I don't want to talk about estate planning. So that's
Okay.
the first hurdle. But the biggest one is the Superman syndrome. That's what we call it. Well, I call it. The
Okay.
Superman syndrome is I am a man, I'm never going to die. I don't want to acknowledge that. It's acknowledging failure. So I
Mhm.
can't do this planning part because it's going to be an acknowledgement. So we had to get him to the point where he recognized with what was happening, I'm not
Mhm.
Superman. In
Gotcha.
essence, right? I had to acknowledge that I'm sick. I have to acknowledge that things are going to change. And with that simple acknowledgement, we were able to act. And then
Okay,
once you
great.
act, you can go quickly. So we got a lot of these things done.
Mhm.
There's a lot of it fall on the children. There's a lot of it fall on our shoulders to kind
Absolutely.
of go to a house, pack up a house, sell a house, organize, find. You know what
Mhm.
it's like, Caribbean dad. Do you know how many pieces of paper I found with accounts and numbers on them that I was like, I don't
Yeah.
know what this is? And it gets to a point where you're like, I don't even care. I don't care what's in this paper. I don't care how much money's in this paper. I don't have
Mhm.
capacity. Next. So
Mhm.
it's avoiding that and
Mhm.
making it a lot easier by just saying, here's what we need.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Mhm.
I like that, and I do agree because, like I was telling you prior to us getting starting this actual podcast, um, I had 2 easy passings and 2 hard passings. So
Mhm.
the 2 easy passings were my grandmother
Mhm.
and my mom. My mom passed from cancer. She knew she was going to pass,
Mhm.
and she
Mhm.
was always a very methodical person anyway. So everything that needed to be done was done. Every paper that needed to be signed was signed. We
Mhm.
all knew what we were getting prior to her
Mhm.
passing,
Yes.
so there was nothing to fight over. There was nothing like funeral arrangements. I went
Mhm.
to the funeral home. We called the insurance company. They paid for the funeral, da 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 da, everything. One, two, three. The hardest part, however, was packing up.
Yeah.
There was so much things to be packed up. I mean, it took me months. Well, for months after she passed,
Mhm.
nobody touched anything.
Mhm.
So the house kind of like just was in a frozen state.
Mhm.
And I was a teacher at the time. I waited until summer, and my one of my really good friends, almost best friend at the time, best friend, I should say, at the time, she came to the house with me, and she was a little older than I was. She came with me several days a week and helped me to pack up. Without her, I could not have done it.
Just the two of you. You didn't hire. Oh,
Ooh, what's that?
it's Apple. It's an Apple computer.
Oh, okay. I was like, oh, wait a minute. What is
Turn
that?
it
Okay,
off.
because I've never seen that.
Was it just the two of you who did that?
Yes, just the 2 of us. Yeah,
Oh,
just the
that's a
2 of us. Because
lot.
my daughter was a little my son would come over and move a
Mhm.
few little things here and there, but he was a little boy too. He
Yeah.
was not a little boy, he was 16. But that was not his work to do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he and his grandmother were like this.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I didn't want to put him through that emotional. So she and I basically did it. Was a 3-bedroom, 2,500 square foot house.
Yeah.
Imagine,
Yeah.
right? So packing that up. And so that was really rough. But the funeral arrangements, all of that stuff, all of that was really easy to do. I mean, I gave away so many bags and
Yes.
suitcases and
Yeah.
oh my goodness,
Yeah.
you know.
A
And then
lot.
when my grandmother passed, well, she was 80 something. So she knew that she was going to pass, right? She
Mhm.
had cancer for the 3rd time. So she made sure that when my mom passed, actually, like a couple of weeks or a month after my mom passed, she made sure she put everything in place.
Yeah.
so that when she passed, nobody had to, do anything besides pack up. The
Yeah.
packing up you can't get past.
Yeah.
I don't know any way to get around the packing up part.
There is a very good book called The Swedish Art
Really?
of Death Cleaning, and it
Uh-huh.
speaks about doing that exact same thing. It's about clearing your house of all of the extra so
Mhm.
that it's easier for your family after you pass. And it's
I've
like,
thought
I don't
about that because I look around, like even in my office, and I'm like, if something should happen to me today, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
But at least she knows where things are.
Mhm.
Okay, she knows where to find the important things.
Yes.
The rest of it, it's a lot of books and papers and
That's all we all have it. We're living, right? We're
Yeah,
supposed to have
right.
stuff. But it's like I laugh so hard. We made this checklist.
Mhm,
It's a small little checklist, but it's a fun checklist. It's
mhm,
in this drawer, you call this person to go through this drawer. Give my
mhm,
computer to this person. Don't
mhm.
open like all the my fridge. Prepare yourself before you get in. Like there's all those little things on the checklist. It's
Yeah,
fun, right? Because you make it a
yeah,
little easier. But yeah, I
mhm.
got you. We're all humans, and I hope
Yeah,
it helps.
yeah. And then my son passed and he was
Fun.
25. And prior to him passing, I kept saying, come on, we need to put some stuff in place. We need to
Mhm.
put some stuff in place. I was like, please do this, please do that. And he was just like, yeah, mom, but why are you so on it? I don't know. I don't know why. I was
Mhm.
like really, really like on him about you need to put some stuff in place. You need to put some stuff in place.
Mhm.
And young. He's not thinking anything is going to happen,
Nope. Yeah.
So, unfortunately, he died in a traffic accident, and he was here today and gone today,
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah.
Um, and then, so of course, because nothing was in place,
Didn't do it.
you
I
have
was
to
like,
go through
"Yay."
the probate process, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then my brother passed a year and some change later. And I had been on him when my son died to
Mhm.
get things in place.
Yeah.
And I kept going over, and he's just like, oh, why are you being so morbid? I said, I'm not trying to be morbid. I'm trying to be practical. I
Mhm.
don't want anybody else to have to go through this. Da, 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 da. Get life insurance, get this, get
Yeah.
that, get that.
Yes.
And that didn't happen. I'm not going to say why, but
Yeah.
it did not happen. And he ended up passing due to, I guess, complications from COVID. And that's in probate too.
Yeah. That's the thing.
So,
Yeah.
and probate is a long, arduous,
Mhm.
messy process.
Expect.
And if you want to see the worst of everybody, have to go the probate. The probate process will unmask everyone.
Mhm. 100. That and the beneficiary. If you have
Yes.
insurance and the beneficiary that you list,
Mhm.
that the
Yeah.
POA, like you'll see what happens with people over the smallest things. Sometimes it's money,
Mhm.
sometimes it's the ownership. It's I want to do this for them and it comes from a good place, but it ends up coming across very poorly because they're
Mhm.
overcompensating and now wanting to do too much or just
Right.
be overwhelmed. There's a lot of reasons that you see such of the bad in people, but it's the
Mhm.
reality of what happens when even if you just said, if
Mhm.
nothing else, if you said, "This is what I want," so that
Mhm.
people around you know, and now we can operate, with that understanding, even
Mhm.
that start would be helpful. So I'm so sorry. That's a lot of loss that you
Yeah.
had. Yeah, absolutely. Mhm.
Yeah, so I scream from the rooftops now to everybody, please
Yeah.
have a plan in place, written,
Mhm.
preferably written. Forget about the verbal stuff. Write it down, get it signed, get it
Mhm.
notarized so that there's no questioning what it is that you want to happen. Even something as simple, and then I'm going to get more into what you're saying, but even something as simple as what you want to happen
Mhm.
when you die. What do you want to happen with your body?
Mhm.
Right? Do you want to be buried? Do you want to be cremated? Do you want to have a big funeral, a small funeral? What do you want people to wear?
Yeah.
Just take a lot of that away from the person who's still living, who's grieving you,
Mhm.
from having to make all these decisions that interrupt the grieving process. And some people just really can't handle it.
A lot.
So as men, like when my grandmother, on my father's side, when she died, she also died from cancer as well. She was well up in her 70s.
Mm.
She paid for her funeral in advance
Oh yeah.
because she was not delusional. She knew it was going to happen. And that's what I don't understand. So tell us a little bit more about what a death doula does, because I think a lot of people need to understand it, because I think that this conversation, if people are truly listening, could just open up your eyes. We have to stop being delusional, right? We're all here for a period of time. Let's not leave burdens behind. I've seen families totally destroyed because things were not left in place. So tell us exactly what does a death doula do?
Yeah, it's true. I see it
Mhm.
too. I've seen so many stories. There's a reason that I'm so passionate about this, because
Mhm.
this is why I say ending well. It's
Yes.
about ending well. In order to
Yes.
end well, you must live well. And that means
Mhm.
things.
Yeah.
So in my workshops, I kind of put everything together. So the funeral
Mhm.
director side of me, the death doula side of me, and the estate advisor side, they all come
Okay.
together. And I talk
Mhm.
about the 3 Ps of estate planning. So you have your paperwork, you have your
Mhm.
planning, and you have your story, your life story. The
Okay.
paperwork is going to be like your will, your power of
Mhm.
attorney documents. We call it, I think you guys actually call it a living will, or your
Yes.
advanced care directives. So your
Mhm.
will, I mean, like wills can be done so easily now. You just go online and create one, depending
Mhm.
on your situation. If you got things overseas and like in different places, you got to make sure you're covering all of that. But I'm like, just get a will
Mhm.
done. Do it.
Mhm.
And then your power of attorney, I think we think estate planning. This is why I use legacy, because we think estate planning and we think I'm going to die. I'm like, yes, in the end of the estate planning, that's what it is. But the
Yeah.
legacy part is that in between. Right now, my dad, he is sick. I
Mhm.
am the power of attorney. That living will, that advanced care directive tells me how to operate. When you're saying, just tell me, because we're overwhelmed. Tell me if you want to have a big funeral. Tell me what you want people wearing. Tell me what's important to you when it comes to if you are sick. This is the death doula part of it. What do you really want to have? Do you want to be laid up in the hospital because you don't want to feel pain? Number one is I don't want to feel pain. I want to
Mhm.
be in the hospital where I can get immediate care, immediate assistance. I don't want to be home. Or if I want to be home, what does that look like and what does it mean for your family? Because sometimes I find when it comes to death, like we plan everything else. Man, we plan a gender reveal. We plan everything. But it comes to death, we're like, tell us what to
Yeah.
do. We don't know.
Yeah.
Tell us what to do. I'm like,
Yeah.
you have so many choices, and you need to also decide how the choice you make now will affect the family, because someone
Mhm.
passing at home affects that household. So you need to decide if you're ready for that, if you want that, if you want to think of that every time you pass that room. What is going to happen? Are you okay with it? Right? So a lot of these things, it's just a conversation we have to have. Put it in
Mhm.
your form, and now we know how to operate. I have these cards, which are like, it's kind of like Uno. You're flipping over your cards,
Yeah.
and as you're doing it, we're talking. We're talking
Mhm.
about what's important. Is this important to you? Is it not important to you? You use those kind of things so that it's a little bit easier. So what did I have? I have paperwork. The planning part is, we talked about life insurance. You can put life insurance on a baby when they're young and they have something growing over the years.
Yeah.
Insurance on everybody, because it's the greatest way to transfer wealth. Why
Mhm.
not? Right? So you have your life insurance in place. We pay for funerals. You pay for your funeral ahead of time, or you plan for the insurance, right? It just depends on how you want to do it. That's
Right.
inflation. So think about
Mhm.
it. Pay for your funeral, pay for your spot. Do you want to have, it's property. Do you want
Mhm.
to have a spot to be buried? Like, pay for it ahead of time. Do you want to be cremated? What do you want us to do with your cremated remains after? Please
Right.
don't stop at I want to be cremated. There is a whole part 2 to that decision that nobody says. And I'm like, please, because we don't know. And because
So for me,
you hold
I
up, right?
have I lost 2
You.
children, right? So both of their cremains are right here, like literally
Mm-hmm.
a couple of feet away from me.
Yes.
Now, when I die, I
Yeah.
want to be cremated. And my daughter is like, and who's going to keep all these cremains? So I was just like, mix them together so we can all be together. And she's like, this is so morbid. Like, what do you want me to do with them? So
Mm-hmm.
that's a great question.
It is. And you know what? There's really, especially now, there are beautiful things you can do. You can make
Yes.
them into jewelry. You can
She said,
make them into
absolutely
art
not.
pieces. Okay, never mind.
She said, that is just not happening. Because I've thought about it. And she
Yeah.
was like, Don't you do it. Don't ask me to do it. Absolutely not. So, yeah.
I'm sorry, never mind. But there's like really pretty
Yeah.
aquarium stones you can put,
Hmm.
and you can have those stones in a memorial garden if you want it. Anyway, there's a lot that you can do.
Yeah.
Right? So you've got your planning, so that's your insurance, your funeral, your cemetery. Same with your financial plan.
Hmm.
Very important. So go ahead and get that planning done. Then the last part is your story. And
Hmm.
that's the importance of telling your story. And then for that, I have the legacy story. That's the product I created. It uses AI to help you do your story and create it quickly. So it's not something that's onerous. A lot of people find it difficult to tell it.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
makes it a lot easier because now you're just answering prompts and we'll
Hmm.
take care of the rest. Yeah. So
Awesome. I
that's what I
love
teach.
that.
So the workshops are all about the 3 Ps. It's very
Hmm.
simple. The 3 Ps of estate planning, just go through each one. And then once it's complete, you don't have to think about it again.
Yeah. So it was like your career came full circle.
It did.
So
It
you
really,
wanted to get into to be a coroner, but you ended up being basically a funeral director, mortician type situation, and then now you're just helping people do everything together all at one time.
yeah.
Let's talk about it prior.
Mhm.
Let's plan what you're going to do when it happens, and
Yes,
then what happens after, the legacy you leave after. I love it. I love
exactly. Thank
it.
you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I love what I do. I love
Yeah.
being
Oh
in this
wow.
space. I was telling someone, I think as a funeral director, having worked over 20 years, at a funeral home or funeral
Mhm.
homes, I've amassed a plethora of stories.
I
So
can
many people's
imagine.
stories, so many people's experiences. And I
Mhm.
think through all of that, it really changed how I live my life, the things that I value, the way that I wake up in the morning. It's really now the living well is key for me. I want to live in such a way that at the end of my life, there's a book I love. It's called Die with Zero. So at the end of my life, I want to die empty. I want to feel like I've given everything, I've shared everything I can, and
Mhm.
I can leave knowing I've done all I had. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's interesting that you say that because that's a mantra that I live by. I
Yeah.
remember when my mom was in her last 3 months of dealing with cancer, she said to us, I can go at any point at this point.
Mhm.
I'm content with it because I lived my life on my terms and
Mhm.
I did the things I wanted to do in my life. And that has just stuck with me. Like just saying it makes me want to cry because I'm like, at the time when she said it, I went home and I sat down and I was like, hmm, that's interesting. Can I
Mhm.
say that?
That's it. That's the question.
you know?
Yeah.
And it changed my entire life. It changed the way I lived my life. It
Mhm.
changed the things I did, how I did it, how I wanted to um walk through the rest of my life. And a question that I tend to ask people a lot, when you die, how do you want to be utilized? You oh gosh, I'm
You.
getting tired. Eulogized. Eulogized.
Yeah.
I'm getting
Good
tongue tied.
luck.
How
Yeah.
do you want to be eulogized? What do you want people to say
Mhm.
when they remember you?
Mhm.
And that is how you need to live your life.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how you need to live your life. So I totally and absolutely love that. Okay, so how are people being receptive? So at what stage, I should say, at what stage are you coming into the picture as a death doula?
I come in right at the beginning. So I am speaking to people because of how and what I'm speaking about. I am
Mhm,
the one who's, for the most part, I'm the introduction. When I do my workshops, when I'm connecting, I do a lot on social media. So ending
mhm,
well with Minnelle, you see me on social media, and it's just fun videos teaching this.
mhm,
As of the
okay,
first, I typically talk to people in their 50s, right? So
mhm,
we're young when we're talking and saying,
okay,
"Oh, you really want me to talk about this now?" I do.
mhm,
I do. I want to speak the sandwich generation, the
mhm,
ones that are caring for their parents, while also saying I need to make sure that my kids aren't going to be dealing with something that's overwhelming. So
okay,
it's an intro and it's an
mhm,
easing in and it's teaching so that we know what we have to do. Typically, when someone has children or when
mhm,
they're kind of in their career, they're working, they're at that point where they're like, okay, I'm kind of living my day to day. Now it's time to say, okay, what do I need to set in place? And it's not necessarily, I don't ever start with a state you're dying. I always start
mhm,
with if you fall tomorrow, who is gonna take care of anything? Who's gonna take care of the dog? What's gonna happen next? That's where we start. The immediate, what you need right now. And then we'll go from there for the other things. You have to ease into the rest. Yeah.
Got you. Yeah. And I like that, because one of the things that I did, and I tell a lot of parents to do, because you learn as you go and you don't make the same mistakes more than once, right? So when my daughter turned 18, because when my son passed, they're 10 years apart. So he was 25, she was 15. As soon as the day she well, it was supposed to be on the day she turned 18, but we had taken her on a trip. We came back, and so let's see, say maybe 10 days after her 18th birthday, I had her go in. I created a bunch of documents and I took her to a notary public and I had her sign them. So it's advance directives, it's medical directives, power of attorney, you name it. I set up her living trust, everything. So everything she has goes, she's feeding that trust from now, because I am not going through that again.
Yeah.
Okay. And a lot of parents don't realize, at least here in the US, when your child turns 18, you don't have control over your kids anymore.
Right.
So if something happens, like you're talking about what could happen if you fall, right? If she falls or gets in an accident or something and goes to the hospital, they don't have to let me see her.
The POA. You need that power of attorney document.
Yeah, they don't have to, because I'm the parent, right? Especially if decisions about medical care needs to be made, they can cut me right out of it if I don't have those medical documents signed that says I am her medical proxy, right? So that too, I think, like you said, yes, it's about death, but it's also about life. Right? Because it starts while we're here, and then you make the advancements to what happens after. But if we don't have something set up for while we're here as well, then you're not even ready to talk about, like you said, because that's what you go in. You said you go in and you say to the person, what if you fall?
Yeah.
Who's going to take care of the dog? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? So I think that's a really good entrance into talking about that, because that alone is a problem. Just like I was I told you I have a friend who's a cancer doula. And so I was telling her when we had our podcast interview that I had a surgery that was coming up. And when the hospital calls, they call like the day before to make sure that you have everything in place. And then she says to me, who's going to come with you? And I'm like, no one.
All the time.
Right. And so she said, well, how are you coming here? And I was like, because she said, you have anesthesia. And I was like, yes, no. And I said, I'll take an Uber. Right. I just didn't want to take my daughter with me. Right. Because she doesn't drive. So I didn't want her to be sitting in the waiting room waiting for me. So I was just like, I'll just take an Uber and come back home after. She was like, no. She said, no. I was like, what do you mean no? Right? And she goes, well, we cannot give you to an Uber driver after you come out of anesthesia. She goes, you have to bring someone with you. And I was like, so suppose I don't have someone to bring with me, because that could be a real thing.
That's a lot.
Right? Suppose I live in a state that I don't know anybody. Maybe I just came here. Maybe I'm just not a social person. Suppose I don't have someone to bring with me. Then what? I can't have the surgery? I just thought that was that was just not something I had ever thought about.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That right there is it's not even the next one. It's a huge one, because a lot of people, we're single. And in this world that we're living in, especially in North America, it's very busy. Your friends are here, but do your friends have time? Are they aware that you need them to step into that role, the caregiver role? Like, there's a lot of Golden Girls communities that are being created, right? Where we're going to be supporting each other as we age. But you have to create that community. It's not just going to happen. And especially if you're not having the conversations ahead of time, you're just assuming that someone will come with you. So what happens again? Okay, I've got to go to a surgery. Yes, absolutely. You need to have somebody there for you. And yes, you need to have somebody.
Listen, I'm a very independent person. I'm just like, I could just go and come back. I've had 14 surgeries already. Like, okay, this is nothing. Let's go. Let's get it done. And let me come back home.
Why do people think that? I was like, it's fine. No, like even just for the emotional, just to know that there's somebody there who's advocating. So when it comes to death dueling, the goal, is to advocate for you. To make sure that, yes, the doctors are going to do what they need to do, but who's looking after what you need in that moment, and always having eyes on you. My favorite story was somebody was sick at home, and the doula's job was to man the door because it's family, it's friends. Remember you talked about not having the authority. If someone is common law, if there's a girl, like if the girlfriend, boyfriend, whoever it might be there, who is the person making these decisions? Anyway, the doula's job was to sit at the door and to be the bouncer. And they said,
really,
the family only wants people to come in at certain points. If they don't want other people coming in, they don't want people touching. Like they had a very specific feeling of how they want it. Like, I'm not one who wants everybody coming in touching me. I'm not that person.
No,
so don't come in. And you know how people act when somebody is sick, when someone is dying. People don't know how to act, and they act weird. I get it. It happens to all of us. So the doula was there to kind of manage people who didn't know what to do. So you come to visit. You're not allowed inside. It's not as though you're getting kicked out, you can't see. No, here's what I have for you. I'm going to invite you to sit here, journal with me on a story that you can leave for them. And then they would leave the story. Doula would bring it in and let the person read it, so they got to kind of manage the interactions while still giving the guests the chance to come and to be present with them in the way that they could manage, Not everybody wants to be seen when they're not at their best, but having these talks and then continuing, like, again, at the beginning, I said, you go through the 3 Ps, it's done. You don't have to think about it again. Yeah, that's true, but kind of not. Because when we're going through the process, when somebody is now sick, now we're going to revisit, what did you create? Does it still apply? You're always going to get that. That's like some people get fearful when it comes to like POAs and living wills and advanced care directives. What if I change my mind? You will always have the opportunity to check in and change mind, unless you lose capacity. And then at that point, then whoever you've decided will make those decisions for you. Right. But just know you always have that, like, are you still okay with this? Is this still important to you? You always have those check-ins. So the paperwork is finished. Yes. But you still get the chance to revisit. Okay. So it all goes together that way.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Okay. Well, this was interesting. This was I love this conversation. I think more conversations like this definitely need to happen. So if you want to leave our audience with 3 tips or strategies around preparing, right? Whether you're sick or you're not sick, it doesn't matter. Just preparing. What would those 3 tips be?
So the first tip I would say is to use this podcast. I was just listening to this podcast and I heard them talking about estates and heard them talking about legacy, and I heard their stories, and it made me say this. Use that. That is probably remember you said it was your son had passed and you immediately went to your brother and said, you need to plan. It was the catalyst for action. So use this as your catalyst for action. I heard this, I heard the stories, and it's an easier way to get somebody else who's not interested in having this conversation. It's easier way to get them involved in the conversation, right? Because you're using an example. So start there, use this. Number 2, pick a place to start. For some people, it's like, I just want to do it all. I'm going to go. Most people are not like that. I like to say you start with this and then you're going to introduce a topic. So maybe the thing that resonated to you was a cemetery. Who knows, right? Whatever it is. For some reason, people like to start with cemetery. I don't know. To me, I'm like, the first call is the funeral home. You should probably start there first. But I don't know. Anyway, right? So whatever stood out to you, ease into the conversation. Okay, I'm interested in this. You start today by doing a Google search. You know how we are. We're going to do it while we're on the phone. You're going to Google search it. Are you going to go through the Google search and purchase it and get it all done right now? No. But you start at the first part, which is inquiry. Get some information. Just start with those quick checks and start getting comfortable. because that's the most important part. The more comfortable you are with thinking about it, the easier it is to have conversations. And the third tip is call me. I'm just kidding. The third tip is to have a conversation. It's to talk to someone. And I don't mean a friend, talk to a professional. And you should probably talk to a couple professionals. Talk to at least two, get different opinions. If you're talking to someone, let's say you're talking to an insurance professional, you can speak to one from the bank, you can speak to one that does independent, right? Get different points of view so you know what is best for yourself. And if at all possible, this is for you here, do it with somebody else. Have someone else a second set of ears, or thank you to ChatGPT and all the things that we have, record it. Have something else so that you're not going to, look how much we've talked about in this time that we've had together. You're not going to get it all. So have someone with you, write notes, and then kind of revisit it, because this is not a one and done, really quick, easy process. It is long. And like, I know for me, the hardest part in my estate planning was my advanced care directive. That's always where I start, which is fun. But it's hardest because I'm not dead. I'm living through this. So I have to kind of make decisions of what would be important to me while I'm still here, when I might not be, like it's weird to kind of think about. So it's not easy. Give yourself grace as you're going through it, but go through the process. It is key. So very simple. Use this, start with a little bit of inquiry, and then get some multiple people's opinions from experience.
Okay, great. And what makes you an impactor?
I am an impactor because I am absolutely passionate about getting out there and having these conversations and making it easier for others. I want to light a fire under somebody with something as simple as this, and that they take that spark and they share it. And together we're going to create a forest fire of people who are acting and caring about their legacy, their story, and their estates.
Awesome. All right. Can you tell our audience how they can find you?
Absolutely. You can find me on all socials under Ending Well with Minnelle. I like it. It flows nicely.
Yeah, it does.
Ending Well with Minnelle on social media, also on my website and same name. You can follow me on YouTube as well. I'm just starting a series. I'm very excited. A series kind of my story. And again, I trick you into estate planning. I use my stories. And then, by the way, here we go, like this.
Right.
The story, right? It's me. It's a little story. And then, by the way, do your estate.
Is that a book that you wrote?
That's a legacy story. Oh, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
So this is the AI, right? Do you use the prompts, and then you end up with a magazine?
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
I didn't talk about that.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Minnelle, for being a guest here on Impctrs Out Loud. And to the audience, I hope that you found this information beneficial and that you don't only absorb it, but you actually act upon it. Because you don't want to leave a chaotic legacy behind. When people think about you at the end, you want them to have happy thoughts and not all of the confusion you've left behind because you failed to plan. Okay? So until next time, bye everyone.
Thank you.